Alright, good afternoon everyone. My name is Benjamin and welcome to a, a video where we're going to be talking about reapportionment because the census is of course happening this year and I want to see what a potential house would look like. Now, I've gone through and I've already done the states that are controlled by Republican legislatures, and we'll have Republican legislatures drawing the House districts. I'll probably do Democratic states later, Democratic controlled state legislatures later, and then the bipartisan commission states. This will be, I'll try and get it done by the end of the year, but I think it's certainly an interesting idea. Now, I tried to be as fair as possible, but also vaguely follow the Voting Rights Act, and also try to ensure that competitive the districts are compact. But sometimes that doesn't work out. I also tried to vaguely keep districts in the same location. Alabama is very difficult to actually get a district that votes Democrat in when they lose a district. So there's that. We're going to go back and then scroll down and we'll look at Arkansas. And this is how I imagine it. Imagine the districts will look. And actually, I'm going to take off the labels. And I've got it set to the partisan lean. This is, of course, a Little Rock district. Where did Arkansas go? Oh, it just went straight to the top. Fun. Alright, let's go to Florida. There we go. And I tried to do different things. Now, actually, I don't think Florida does their redistricting through the state legislature, but actually has a computer draw the district. So this may wind up being a little bit of a bamboozle on Florida. But as you can see, it's also very difficult to draw Florida without, going crazy. And I tried to vaguely keep districts connected to each other. If I put where's the map overlay? There we go. And it doesn't really help. But let's go ahead and zoom in. This is a Tampa area. This is Orlando. And of course this is Miami. What the hell? That doesn't make sense. What district did I put this one in? Did I really put the... Interesting. So I need to actually flip these. Oof. That way everything is contiguous. So I think that was the big problem I had with Florida. Was there were a few that I can't figure out that are not contiguous, but this is still well within, and this is something similar to what could happen. Now, there are two instances that are pretty rare of two urban Republican-leaning districts. The fourth up here, and that's Jacksonville. I thought I saw something that I could actually fix here. And then this one in Miami. But if you look, this is a Cuban district. So there's that. And I think this wound up being, what was it? 12-9 with 8 being relatively competitive. So that's actually fairly fair, and that's kind of what I was trying to do, is just make it so that it was similar to what a computer might try and do, which is make it a more competitive map overall. If we go back, I go to Georgia, where the Republican Party will have different goals in some other states, and I'm trying to make this go relatively quickly, but the thing is not being cooperative. So I'm going to take this time while I wait for this to load, and say thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and any likes, comments, and subscriptions will be appreciated. And one of the things I tried to do, and then I kind of gave up on, was keeping the districts close to where they are. And what wound up happening, what the hell? Golly. That's in District 12. 5 is right next to it. Oh, whoops. Sometimes it's a derp. Didn't really change anything. I think that's it. As you can see, what wound up happening is I managed to get only 4 Democratic districts to 10 Republican districts. That said, there are 2 that are competitive, the 2nd and the 4th. Got the 6th to be safe Republican. I think, where's the 5th? I do. Where's the 5th? Right here. The 5th is still safe Democratic. But you've got the 9th, 14th, 10th, and like I said, I did at first try to keep these vaguely where they are in real life, but then at some point I kind of gave up because the map got really weird really quickly, and trying to keep the populations relatively equal between districts is difficult, to be 100% honest. So let's take a look at Indiana, where it's basically impossible to do any better than the current map in terms of improving things for the Republicans, which would be the goal. So it's fairly boring, but hey, what are you going to do? So Indiana's not insane. Iowa is another one. I tried to do a little bit better with this, but it's really difficult because Iowa actually, I believe the rule is that the district lines have to be lined up with the county lines. So this one was particularly difficult, but I managed to get as close as you're going to get to, and the reality is you're probably never going to get a map where all 4 seats go Republican. But then again, Iowa is a very swingy state. We go down to Kansas, where I kind of made things look a big mess. This is a very big mess, a big league mess. There we go. As you can see, I have a district that is basically giving the middle finger right here. unless you want to count this as a middle finger. And this was the only way I could get 4 Republican districts, and the third is it's still competitive. But yeah. So that map would almost certainly get rejected. Kentucky's actually looks very good to me. I think it looks reasonable and not just a completely ridiculous looking map, as you can tell. Yeah, there's a little bit of a mess right here, but what are you going to do about it? This is, of course, Louisville, and the 6th is... Yeah, it could be competitive depending on the year. Missouri was another difficult map for me to do and secure as many seats as possible because Kansas City wound up looking like a mess because that's what I tried to do. St. Louis wound up being heavily Democratic, and as you can see, yeah, exactly. You have 2 competitive districts, but even then, their level of competitiveness is this one would be more competitive than this one. And there would be 4 that were absolutely safe Republican. The best Democrats could do in a blowout year would be 4. And in most years, they'll probably only get 1 or 2, 3 in some. Mississippi, this one, I tried to keep it as close to the real life map and only make minor changes to see if I could improve the GOP's fortunes, and maybe you could, but it was at the expense of making one of the safe districts competitive for the sake of making the Democratic district close to competitive as well. And whether or not that could flip is a different story altogether. Montana was an interesting one because Montana is getting an extra district. This is, other than Florida, the first state to get another district, and this is unusual in that it's a small state getting an extra district. And I'm not sure if I could make it any more favorable to the Republicans. This is the first district, and this is the second. And you can see that the western side of Montana is much more populated than the eastern side. And I thought, well, and I couldn't really find a better way to split it. I tried various horizontal splittings, tried making it really messy, but it doesn't work out favorably, in my opinion. So let's go to North Carolina, which is different in that you have to be careful about the courts throwing out a map due to partisan gerrymandering, which the North Carolina Supreme Court is want to do. So I had to basically just try to make the most compact districts possible, while also trying not to break up certain places like Winston-Salem and Greensboro. I thought about maybe putting them into different districts. And what wound up happening was that it's a map with not that many competitive districts, maybe 3 competitive districts total. But what are you going to do about it? So 5, and this is what, with 14 districts, so they gain a district as well. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 9 Republican districts, I think. Then we go to Ohio, where this one was really tough because I tried to keep what the Republicans had already done here, which is basically a Democratic district in Toledo, which is actually expanded because population's kind of decreased, and actually Ohio is set to lose a district. Cleveland getting a district, and Columbus getting its own district, but because the state has lost population, especially around the Cleveland area, getting competitive, you're going to wind up with competitive districts, especially around Cleveland in this area and south of Toledo. Whereas these two districts are vaguely competitive, but none of the Democratic districts are really competitive at all. So worst case scenario for the Republicans is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of 15, I would say, would be the worst. So it'd be 9 Democratic districts, but of course you get a situation where you have significant majority in the state. It just depends on what happens. And we go, Oklahoma is pretty easy because you can just draw the districts wherever you please, and it's going to turn out favorable to the Republicans. But I think that should just show you how favorable the state is to the Republican Party. The only vaguely competitive district is the Oklahoma City one. We go look at South Carolina. I think I got this one to be, trying to remember how I drew this one. There we go. We should be getting it. Okay, one competitive district that leans Republican, and a safe Democratic district, because you're going to wind up with one of those unless you're really trying to break things up in South Carolina, just because, Voting Rights Act, you have to create a majority-minority district. So even though I think that one actually got thrown out. Tennessee, I, again, was trying to do what I could, and I figured just creating a bunch of safe districts for the Republicans is what they would do, even at the expense of losing a potential Nashville district. Or at the even if I wind up losing the ability to split Nashville up. And as you can see, it leads to Memphis and Nashville. You can tell where the population centers in Tennessee are. And then the rest are here. Now this is the interesting one. This is a relatively compact, relatively small district in terms of space. Not nearly as much as this one, but these two, and really these three, are kind of surprising in how small they are compared to, say, these three, really 4 districts. And this one's the closest in comparison, and that's only got 2 districts that are similar in geographic area. These two are small, but you've got Chattanooga, and I forget what the city in this district would be. But it is interesting to look at these. Now, Texas, I actually drew as a hypothetical exercise once a Texas map where I managed to get only 3 districts for the Democrats, but I figure what Texas GOP is going to do is they're going to draw a bunch of safe Democratic seats. That way they can make a bunch of safe Republican seats to prevent the state from going, protect their legislative power out of Texas and make it easier to get a majority in even competitive election years. So, of course, this is the El Paso district. These two are Brownsville and South Texas. San Antonio, I've split up into a few districts, with only one of them being competitive. This is Austin, obviously. Here's Houston. And then we go up to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where you've got one competitive district, maybe three if you really want to stretch the definition. Obviously, the Houston suburbs are becoming a lot more competitive. And the area, this area in South Texas, is also becoming a lot more competitive. But I managed to protect a lot of the area, which I think is what the GOP is going to try and do. So that's kind of the goal, is to hypothetically, what is the Republican Party going to try and do in a lot of these states with reapportionment? And like I said, I'm going to try and do it with the Democratic Party and try and fit those goals that they are going to have. Here's Utah, where you've got the Salt Lake City districts, and then the rest of the state. This district is extremely sparsely populated, even though the fourth is actually right in this area. I just drew it where I drew it because that's where I drew it. You can put the numbers closest to wherever they actually would be. Let's look at the Wisconsin map. There we go. Where the Republican Party is going to have slightly different goals. I think it wouldn't be unfair to say that the state is becoming more friendly to the Republican Party. So the goal was to basically pack the Democratic cities of, I want to say, well, it's Milwaukee here, and I want to say this is Madison. And then the rest is going to be, one is going to be a safe Republican district, but the others are going to be, there's going to be three that are fairly comfortable for the GOP, one that leans Republican, and then a Democratic district that can be an easy win in the future. Now, just to show you that it is possible just to show you one that I found that was really fun, is I wanted to see if I could create a Republican district in Massachusetts, and what wound up happening is I managed to find a way to get two. I don't honestly believe that there is a way to get a third, especially with the way Massachusetts precincts are, because you will lose any ability to get any form of contiguity, I believe is the correct word to use, or the correct way to phrase it. But, yeah. And one of these, I believe that the first district I drew, it's only just uncompetitive. And actually, here's the funny thing. If we go back, this is considered, the second is, it leans Republican, but it's considered competitive. The fact that I've got four districts that their map says is supposedly competitive, which is this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, the fact that they think that maybe the Republicans could get four is surprising. So, it is what it is. Of course, I had to destroy Boston in order to do it, but I suppose this is fitting considering Massachusetts is where gerrymandering was invented. So, yeah. I thought that was kind of fun, but, oops. Whoop. That was unexpected and unintentional. But yeah, I think I represented what I genuinely believe the GOP is going to try and do in the various states. And I think I especially did it well in the way it's probably going to break down in Texas. The lines may not be exact The districts may not be exactly the same as what winds up happening in real life, but I think you're going to see a very similar philosophy towards redistricting in these states. Now, I maybe could have gotten a few more safe Republican districts if I created another safe Dem district in San Antonio, Bayard County, but I thought it maybe would have been better to create some better upside for the GOP in the Lone Star State. So that was kind of the whole philosophy regarding where I think the Republican-controlled states are going to go with regards to their congressional districts. Anyway, I'm going to end it here. I want to say thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See y'all next time. And have a very nice day. Remember, like, comments, subscriptions. They always do help. I greatly appreciate it. Bye-bye.